Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Chicago. Thank you for joining us today. Travis Hub community, we're back. I know it's been a little bit of some time before we hosted some of these webinars, but of course, we just want to have them when they're really important for you all, right? So I wanted to make sure to take a moment to introduce myself. As many of you know, my name is Jasmine Garcia. I'm the Senior Business Resource Manager leading our Travis Hub initiative at World Business Chicago. And today we have a special treat for you in partnership with ICNC, who's a business resource provider on the hub. We thought, hey, you know what? Chicago's reopening, Illinois is reopening. We need to have this conversation for you all, share with you all what are the new regulations, the new guidelines. Should they change anytime soon? Where do you need to look for? Where do you need to sign up for alerts? And who do you need to talk to? You know, if you have any questions with regards to this. So here we are today to have this conversation. You know, we're joined by two incredible guests from the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois. And so I'm going to go ahead and, kick us off of, sharing with you a little bit again of why we're hosting this, again, reopening guidelines. And I'll go ahead and kick it off to Enrique, who can introduce himself and share a little bit more about himself, and then Diana and Andy.
Thank you, Jasmine. Good morning, everyone. My name is Enrique Rubio. I am the Center Director at the Illinois SBDC at ICNC. ICNC operates two incubators on the west side of Chicago. Our first incubator is the Make City incubator that focuses on modern manufacturing in the city. Our facility hosts over 100 companies that are producing a wide range of products from candles to roasting coffee. So we do a little bit of everything at our Make City incubator. And then further on the west side, we have our Hatchery incubator, which focuses on the food and beverage industry. And the center at the Illinois SBDC at ICNC, we help small businesses to get started with creating businesses in Illinois, as well as helping companies grow and scale up. Thank you, Jasmine.
Thank you, Enrique. Diana, do you mind taking a moment to introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I'm Diana Alfaro. I work at the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, also known as DCEO. Specifically within that agency, I work in the Office of Minority and Economic Empowerment, also known as OMI. We support minority, women, person with disability, and veteran-owned businesses. Thank you for having me today.
And Mr. Andy Fox.
Hi, good morning. Andy Fox. I work at the City of Chicago, Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection as the Director of the Office of Labor Standards.
Thank you, Andy. All right, to kick us off, please, I'm going to go ahead and start with the city because I know our audience with regards to Travis Hub is much larger in the city, and then we're going to go ahead and kick it off to Diana. But please briefly share with us, Andy, what is phase 5 and what does the reopening entail? And I'm going to go ahead and pull up here a great resource that you shared with me as you speak.
Awesome. All right, so there's a view from probably like Shedd Aquarium. So let's go to the next slide because I know we are limited on time. Ideally, we'd like to build in some time for questions. So just at a very high level, I'm not going to read to you, but right now it's about healthy interactions, which means social distancing, protective gear, hygiene requirements, safe spaces and conditions, vaccination, cleaning standards, visual guidance, and operational resilience and monitoring, really flexible models, travel guidelines, testing and tracking. Next slide. So, oh my goodness, that is so big. Go back one. So we're currently phase 5. So these replace the industry-specific guidelines. Guidance includes recommendations for all types of businesses, venues, customers, employees, in order to help maintain a healthy environment and operations, as well as lower the risk of COVID-19 spread. Next slide. You can see I'm going fast. I just want to get through get to the meat of it. Not that people are meat eaters, but get to the substance of it for those that don't eat meat. So these are recommended prevention strategies. I mean, really the goal is to reduce the spread of COVID-19, and the guidance will be updated as the Center for Disease Control's Illinois Department of Public Health release new recommendations. Next slide. So I just bold things I think are important. Vaccination status. I mean, I think from a labor standard perspective, what we're seeing now is some employers are considering requiring people to be vaccinated coming back. And then there's, from a legal perspective, whether or not there is what accommodations we give people. So accommodations can be reasonable. So as you think about putting in sort of mitigations, social distancing, kind of how do we welcome people back to the workplace, make them feel comfortable, those are really the big issues. What do we have in place? How do we make people feel safe? And if people are concerned about coming back, do we have to do an ADA reasonable accommodation? So same rules as always. COVID-19 vaccines are safe, effective, widely available. If you're sick, stay home. For businesses and venues where everyone present is fully vaccinated, face coverings and social distancing in the city of Chicago in both indoor and outdoor settings are not required. Just let me reemphasize that. For businesses and venues where everyone present is fully vaccinated, face coverings, social distancing in both indoor and outdoor settings are not required. This is updated June 11th. For indoor businesses and venues where everyone present is not fully vaccinated, unvaccinated persons should wear a face covering and maintain 6 feet social distancing. So the thought bubble goes off. Well, how do we enforce that? Do I have to stand at the door and talk to people? Do we have to recommend it? What do we have to do? You don't want to be in a position where you're enforcing these things, asking people for confidential medical information, right? So businesses and venues may continue to require face coverings and/or social distancing, as many have. So you can put a sign up that says, hey, it's required in our business. Outdoor businesses and venues, unvaccinated persons may choose not to wear a face covering when able to maintain a 6-foot distance while outdoors, unless required to do so by a business or municipality. So it just makes you think, like, so where are we now? I mean, it's pretty clear. We're reopening rapidly. Many things are coming, and you're trying to protect yourself and your workers as well as the public. Next slide.
I have a quick follow-up, Andy, just so you can clarify on this. So is it okay for a business to ask future potential customers for their vaccination card?
As a lawyer, if you ask me to produce something that is confidential medical information, I would feel uncomfortable providing my vaccine card to you. Mm-hmm. Right? So, I mean, you can recommend it, and we don't want people, we've seen how people react to that. You can recommend it, you can require it in writing, but who wants to police that? No business wants to be in the job of asking people to produce a card at the door to participate. It's really a good faith, I mean, what do they call it? Where you, it requires some trust on behalf of the party.
The honor code over here, right?
Yeah. No, it's an honor system. That's what I was trying to say. So businesses and venues should support social distancing to the extent possible, especially indoors. Businesses and venues should apply best practices in managing social distancing in such places as concessions, counters, public restrooms, lines, and queuing. I mean, so, we're reopening, and now some people want to just throw away their masks and not use them at all. We've got employees that are concerned. Some might have accommodations. We're trying to accommodate them by altering their workspaces. There are areas where you might need to seek counsel from lawyers about how to handle accommodations. ADA can be complex, but accommodations are reasonable. So these are the rules by Chicago Department of Public Health. How you implement them at a business level, you're supposed to seek guidance, seek help from business resources where and if you are concerned that there might be a legal issue you need to address. Next slide. So, masks. This should be bolded. This should be underlined. This should be like have flashing lights. Although people who are fully vaccinated are not required to wear a face covering, businesses and venues should be supportive of customers and employees who choose to wear a face covering. It's kind of like when social distancing first started, we had to use a little common sense. So you kind of have to use some common sense. Persons who are immunocompromised should consider wearing face coverings when in settings where others may not be fully vaccinated. All unvaccinated persons should wear face coverings in crowded settings. But we're not in the business of policing that because we don't want to be asking people for confidential health information, both indoors and outdoors, especially when youth are present. See the CDC guidance for further information. Next slide. So I bold those things I think are important, just my style. Chicago's emergency travel order is now a travel advisory. Back when we had all these states where you were required to quarantine if you went to a state that had this high incidence or high hospitalizations or high death rates, that's over. Unvaccinated travelers should avoid non-essential travel. These are just recommendations. Everything now is a recommendation. Returning travelers who live or work in Chicago or visitors to Chicago who travel domestically are not required to quarantine if they're asymptomatic and fully vaccinated. If you are not vaccinated and are traveling from a state with that or above 15 average daily cases for 100,000 by population, you blew ahead. You should receive a negative COVID-19 test no earlier than 72 hours prior to arrival and have proof of negative results or plan to quarantine for 10 days upon arrival. So the one area where their masks are required, and this is really on a personal level, not as much your business, masks are required are planes, buses, trains, and other forms of public transportation traveling into, within, or out of the United States and in U.S. transportation hubs such as airports and stations. And if you want to see what happens when people try to not wear masks, you can just go to YouTube and see how many people are resisting these recommendations and how it's really hard for you as a business, people who don't want to wear a mask, who are really upset about it and trying to assert their freedom. That's the quick presentation.
Yes, thank you. And we'll make sure to share contact information at the end if you have additional questions. I want to make sure Diana gets a moment to share a little bit about what's going on with the state and what the regulations look like at that level. So 1 second, please. Here we go, Diana.
Andy did such a great job. We practically agree pretty much close to 100% to everything that Andy did. So thank you, Andy, for making my answer a lot more easier. So from the state, Phase 5 just signals a full reopening of the state across industries and removes capacity restrictions. So what that means is this marks the return of like large gatherings, events, conventions, and more. It also removes the statewide mask mandates while encouraging residents to follow and continue to follow the CDC guidance. So a lot of what Andy had mentioned, for just to summarize real quick, like for indoor businesses, vaccinated individuals should wear a face covering and maintain social distance 6 feet apart. For outdoor businesses, unvaccinated individuals may choose not to wear a face mask as long as they can maintain like a 6 feet distance between other individuals, or unless it's required by the business or the municipality. So very much similar to everything that Andy had mentioned. This does allow now like a full reopening. There is no more statewide mask mandate. However, in certain circumstances, like Andy mentioned at the very end, if you're on public transportation, etc., you'll have to still wear a mask regardless if you're fully vaccinated or not.
Thank you, Diana.
Awesome.
Go ahead.
Well, with that being said, where should small business owners turn to in order to download any type of signage as it relates to, COVID-19 protocols? Are there any free signs that they can download off the web? that they can, put up in their stores?
From the city of Chicago, I think really where we refer people or point them to is the BACP Small Business Center. I can put that link in the chat or in the chat. And that's really got all the resources. I don't know if there's specific signage that we have, but we could look into that. Or they could just call 312-74-GO-BIZ, which is 312-744-6249. And I'll put that in the chat also.
Similar at the state, we don't have like specific signage. However, if you need assistance with signage or assistance with your business, we do have what's called the Small Business Development Centers, SBDCs. We have 42 across the state that can assist you at no cost with your business. So you could reach out to them, or you can also reach out to DCEO for assistance.
Thank you, Diana and Andy. As many of you are seeing, this is a very informational webinar, so I just want to stress to everyone that anything that's being put in the chat box will be also put on our Facebook channel. And then when you go to chibizhub.com/COVID-19 resource page, you will find there an entire section on reopening with all of the links, all of the resources that are being mentioned today. So it's easily accessible for you. And at least for Chibiz Hub, you can always contact me, info@chibizhub.com. And then any questions that you have, like I will find the person for you, So want to make sure to stress that throughout the conversation. To move us forward, I want to get an perspective from Andy and Diana. A lot of our businesses are currently operating under capacity and with limited staff due to the pandemic. So many feel as if the state and the city kind of just like reopened overnight. So if you can share with us, are there any workforce initiatives or programs that you can share that might assist our businesses as they get on track to meet demand for their business?
Well, from the city, ideally they would hire back those people that they laid off, furloughed, or let go based on a priority of them. For example, the city had a kind of a hotel reopening ordinance that we moved through where, you look to existing staff, those people are probably still out there looking for it. I was on a call today with the World Business Chicago, Alberto Ortega, and like connecting people to jobs is such a priority. I'm trying to think if I have a link that I could put up, kind of how to connect people to jobs who are possibly not interested in going back to the same type of job. Some people don't want to be an essential worker. Some people want to go into a different career. So it's kind of, okay, here are my skills, here are my, what are the KSAs, whatever those are, knowledge, skills, and an A. But how do we connect people to another area, perhaps non-essential? Like, I've got a couple sons. One of them works in fast food. The other one, I don't know if he wants to work in fast food. So like, how do we get his skill set, albeit limited, connected to a job? Because they say that there are tons of jobs out there. It's just, I know that restaurants are rapidly hiring a lot of people, but does everybody want to go back into a restaurant given the kind of how fast it's reopened? So I'll look real quick while Diana answers to see if we have a resource there.
Thanks. So this is a very good question. And before I fully dive into the workforce, I want to let everyone know that's listening or watching on Facebook or with us on Zoom, that in order to sustain our efforts to build back a stronger, economy, following the onset of the pandemic, Governor Pritzker passed a 2022 budget. And if, some information has been out recently, so if you don't know, I just want to give some quick information about that. The budget, it seeks to reinvest in additional economic recovery programs. So from small business grants to tourism recovery to workforce training program investments, right? So these programs, and they're roughly totaling, if I remember correctly right now, $450 million are being developed as we speak, and we anticipate them to be rolled out sometime this summer. Well, the first of them. So stay connected with us. We're on social media, on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, at Illinois DCEO, because as information comes out, as those programs come out, so the small business grants that's mentioned in there, there's supposed to be a back to business. So once we have that information, we'll let it release it and let you know, as well as any workforce investment programs. But to go back to the original question about workforce and just dive in just a tad deeper into that, we have a website at the state of Illinois called Illinois WorkNet, which is literally the website address is illinoisworknet.com, which is basically a one-stop shop for employers and job seekers, right? So as an employer, you could go there and post job openings, you could get resources, set up a virtual job fair as needed, etc. As a job seeker, you could find these job postings, you could find information about that public-private training program. So as Andy was mentioning about his son who might not want to do fast food, right? So if they needed if they have limited training and they're looking for additional training, you could find that information on that website and other resources. So definitely, if you are not already utilizing IllinoisWorkNet.com, please go ahead and check it out because it might be a resource for your business.
Thank you, Diana and Andy. I want to make sure to interject here and kind of follow up a little bit on what Andy said. As many of you know, I am representing World Business Chicago. We do have actually a new workforce department that is being led by Alberto Ortega. And so I know our website is just World Business Chicago is undergoing changes. So you will see a lot more information about what the workforce department is working on. So we can also share information with you, connect you with Alberto if necessary, that can connect you to the resources again to find the workforce that you need for your businesses. I know later on in the summer, I believe in August, World Business Chicago is going to be working together, obviously with Alberto and a couple of other partners, and they'll be having a job fair as well. So if you want to be part of that, please follow us on social media. Please follow, get in contact with us if you have any questions, ChavezHub.com. Anything you need, we'll make sure to connect you when it comes to workforce, because there's a lot of things going on in the works right now, right? Like we just barely reopened, and then folks are still, folks that were on unemployment or were not, there's a lot of movement in this area. And so there's a lot in the works. And so probably towards the end of the summer is where you'll see a lot more these job fairs coming up, more of the businesses just trying to find the new workforce, as we move forward. So just want to make sure to flag that for everyone, that we also have a contact in that space that can assist you with any of that.
In a previous career, I worked at the Illinois Department of Employment Security. So the WorkNet centers are really a good place. It's kind of like, you think of it, Indeed.com, the America Job Link Alliance. People who are unemployed are required to seek employment. And so employers can go to like 18th Street, 18th and Paulina, there are different workforce centers at a state level, and you go in, and the office manager, if you say, I want to post some jobs, they will talk to you. So if you're interested in finding employees that are unemployed, they can match them by skill set. And it's like Indeed, you can select the kind of qualifications you want. So I know Alberto's doing a ton of stuff through World Business Chicago, and he was drinking way too much coffee today. So I had to slow him down. I'm a lawyer, but I'm like, whoa, he was on fire. So Alberto is high energy, awesome guy. At a state level, if you're outside the city of Chicago and or that place is near you, it's a great way to find people who are actually unemployed. They're required to be in there, and it's just figuring out how to filter who you want. If you're a job seeker, you're required to go in there and look for jobs. But I think those are two there are state resources in the city, all over the city, and there are Chicago workforce development center, same thing. If you go in and say, I want to hire someone, if you're an employer, they will help you find someone. You believe it, because it's like a personal job. You're in a neighborhood, people are coming in, filing for unemployment. They're real people, they're your neighbors. They want to connect people to jobs. So my office managers always had a little secret set of I'm looking to fill these jobs. And they would connect people to those jobs. Or they would get a call from an employer I need 10 drivers, or I need such and such. And they would dig into their system and connect those people to jobs. And they want to send good people because they're motivated to get that call again. Well, now I need 10 whatevers. If you weren't able to fill the job order last time, why are you going to call you back again? So it's kind of relationship building on that level. People want to find good quality jobs. So connecting real people to real jobs is a high priority in both of those spaces.
Thank you, Andy, for flagging that actually, just to kind of shed light how you can use Tribus Hub, the portal, as the resource navigator specifically for businesses. There is a tab on there where you can select, human resources. You're looking for talent specifically. And as of right now, 8% of our business resource providers and growing actually assist with that. So great point for Andy. Like within the neighborhoods, there's tons of BSOs out there, including even some of the chambers of commerce that will take this on too, of like, hey, there's a local restaurant that's looking for servers, and they'll have some flyers like there or outside or on their website or on their social media. I've seen a couple of chambers, getting really creative, trying to showcase not just like the vacancies, for example, in their neighborhoods, but also like what places are hiring, what businesses are opening, like really coming together and helping each other out. So if you're looking for a resource, like it's out there, you really just have to ask and look a little bit, right? And then Tribus Hub is a perfect example that kind of showcases all of our neighborhoods and all of the resources that are out there specifically to Chicago. And then as you can see, we have a tie also with the state. And so if you have any questions, leaning around in our suburbs, we can also connect you to that.
Speaking of restaurants, we did receive a question regarding what regulations and rules regarding taxes and limits apply to any businesses that utilize a COVID-19 surcharge. We've been seeing a lot of, restaurants and bars in Chicago that have implemented a COVID-19 surcharge. Andy, do you know of any limitations when a business applies a COVID-19 surcharge?
That is something I don't have specifics on, but I would be happy to connect that person. If you want to just email me at BACP Labor Standards at City of Chicago. I'll put it in the chat. I'll put my email. It's an email I monitor. It's not just some empty email. I'll put this email in the chat, and then I will forward it and copy you to the person that could answer that specifically, because that question needs an answer. That's a really good question.
Thank you, Andy and Enrique. And Diana, just to be clear, there's nothing at that level, right, for the state. We're not seeing much of that. I know Chicago specifically, I've seen it. Folks have asked me about that too.
Similar to Andy, I don't have specifics on that. So if they want more information from the state, I could also put my contact information and you could reach out to me. We could try to find out, because not at the Department of Commerce, so DCO, it might be with the Illinois Department of Revenue or another state agency. So we would have to collaborate with our counterparts to see to get a more specific answer. Yeah, but I'll put my information in the chat box as well.
Thank you, Diana. And then thank you, Andy. So something that we keep getting asked a lot is about these mask requirements. And so we'd like to hear your perspective. I know we talked a little bit, during your presentation, Andy, and then when you talked about the reopening guidelines, Diana, but in your, given your expertise and how many business owners you work with on the daily, what are your recommendations for how a business owner should kind of think about deciding the mask requirements? I'll give you like a real life example. Just recently, I was connecting with the Andersonville Chamber of Commerce, and they shared that like in our neighborhood, like pretty much every single business is requiring the mask because it's a very family oriented neighborhood, right? And like a lot of no kids have vaccinations right now. So they're trying to protect them. Everyone could be vaccinated, but the kids are not. So like they're making sure that in their neighborhood specifically, pretty much every single restaurant is requiring these masks. So can you touch a little bit again on that, kind of how you recommend about a business going on about that? What is and what is not allowed in terms of the regulations at the city or the state level?
Well, I mean, from the city, it's, people who are fully vaccinated are not required to wear a face covering. Businesses and venues should be supportive of customers, employees who choose to wear a face covering. I mean, it's worth thinking about putting up signage like Andersonville, like it's not required. We're asking you to wear a sign, and maybe incorporated some children to kind of guilt people into wearing it. Like, you might be vaccinated, but kids aren't, and there will be here. And we've got these beautiful little kids who are going to be coming in here. Try to be respectful of that. It's not guilt, but it is. It's kind of guilting people into good behavior and modeling that for people. And I don't know if it's just so contentious. I guess it's where you're at. In some neighborhoods, it's not contentious. You look around, everybody's wearing masks. When I'm in a state adjacent to here, when I wear a mask, they look at me like I'm from a foreign country or another planet, which is just boggles my mind. And I know they're not all vaccinated because I look at their numbers, they're not. So I would think in Chicago, we can set the moral tone and the scientific tone of asking people to wear things, highly recommending, and then, think about the children who are not. And that is one way to just kind of take the high ground and try not to get involved on a one-to-one level with customers who were sometimes very contentious.
So from the state, I think like staying informed is very important. So reading over those phase 5 guidelines, right? It's only one page. This one's not long. So it's a simple one pager. I think also keeping up with the CDC guidance and the COVID-19 safety information from IDPH to help you make an informed decision of what you think is best for your business, right? As well as reading local municipality information, right? Making sure you stay connected to like Andy's office and making sure that you're following their rules and guidelines. But ultimately, businesses may continue to require face coverings and requiring social distancing. So it kind of depends per business, right? So if a business owner, if they're vaccinated and their entire staff are vaccinated, they can make that determination like we're not going to require face coverings. But if we're not fully vaccinated, we're going to require face coverings. So it kind of depends. Like the example you gave, Jasmine, with Andersonville is a great example, right? So they're thinking more on like the smaller children who are not able to get vaccinated at a certain age yet. So that could go into determining if you want to or not to, right? But at the end of the day, businesses still have the authority to continue to require face coverings and requesting social distancing.
And if you are a business owner that is requiring, face coverings in your restaurant or in your retail store, please also ensure that you have, available disposable masks ready for patrons that, are not, wearing masks in their day-to-day lives, because you don't want to, miss out on that sale or miss out on that, that opportunity to serve, those customers. So, it's always a good thing to have, the mask readily available, especially if you are mandating that, your patrons wear one in your location.
I think that's also, thank you, Enrique, for mentioning that, because I also think sometimes since we've reopened, people are just assume they don't need to wear a mask, and so they might just show up just thinking and not knowing, right? Like Andersonville, not knowing if you're coming in from a different neighborhood and you're going to Andersonville that, have some coffee and have some dinner, and you just don't realize, oh, this is more family oriented. They're taking precautions because of this matter. I didn't bring a mask. So I think that's a great point. Maybe, providing, masks just in case that someone's coming in from a different area. You're not fully aware.
That's a valid point. Thanks everyone for sharing. And I also want to flag for folks, I know in a couple of neighborhoods, I'm probably sure in all of them, I've seen, because they are required, right? Like on the train or on the buses, you'll see once you get on the bus, there's like a little box there and there's usually extra masks in there. Or in the train stations, there's also other like boxes as soon as you're going up the stairs, I've seen that have extra masks. And if they don't have any, I'm sure if you ask like the security downstairs, and you'll have, that's what I think. I'm not originally from Chicago, but what I've seen is really cool. A lot of the businesses are usually around also the train stations. So again, if you want to run in and get like your coffee and Jumping Bean here in Pilsen, but you forgot your mask, there's a box there that has masks. So like we're trying to make it very resourceful for you all, I think, right? Like on behalf of the city to find if you need a mask, if you don't, type of thing. So, and then again, like the way each business is operating, we're giving you recommendations, right, on how to move forward with this. So thanks to everyone for that. Before I go ahead and ask you all, Diana and Andy, please, repeat your contact information. And again, any links or resources that we can share with the community. Is there anything else that you think we missed in this conversation that maybe with your experience, working with the business owners, any questions that you've been getting quite recently that might be helpful for our community? I know Chibis Hub, we work with a lot of different restaurants in the neighborhoods. So I wanted to make this very specific about, in areas that folks are frequenting and, maybe don't wear their mask because they're eating or something like that, right? But With regards to other industries, anything else you think we might have missed? I know gyms are something else that we work with a lot. I've been to a couple of gyms that, don't require you to wear the mask. So if you can share any kind of information on that.
I think I just, not necessarily like industry, but I just want to mention that, as a state, we've made major progress, right? And that's why we're at phase 5 now in reopening, but nonetheless, COVID-19 still exists, right? We're still not fully out of this pandemic, right? We have increased our numbers and boosting our numbers of vaccination rates, but we could, always continue to do better, et cetera. So if you are not vaccinated, please consider getting vaccinated. And if you're not vaccinated, please continue to take the appropriate measures, right? Wearing a face mask when needed, social distancing, washing your hands often, et cetera. Because at the end of the day, we are in phase 5, but COVID-19 still exists.
Yeah, I was looking at our website to see like industry specific. When we first started COVID, we would have a daily call of all the social distancing complaints we were getting, and it was very industry specific. And now it's all about reopening. So it's not, are there any restrictions at all? And there are very few that are left. It's really indoor or outdoor. Outdoor is much less restrictive than indoor. I'll peruse our website in the business education section or the business support tools of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection to see if there's anything specific, but I can't recall anything offhand. I'll take a quick look.
No, that's actually, thank you for saying that, Andy, because as you all, like, we're having this conversation, right? Recording it live for you all. But we also go to the resources online of like, what does it say online? Because that's the, most up-to-date information as things are moving along and moving forward. From the conversations I've had, with city representatives and including Andy and Diana, right? With regards to the state, right? We don't anticipate like any kind of surge, because I've had some business owners ask me too, and I think this is just the trauma speaking, right? But they're like, oh no, watch, there's going to be a surge in like the fall again. We're like, hey, you know what? Like, hopefully there isn't, but these are the resources. This is where you need to look at. These are the websites. These are the individuals you need to talk to should things rapidly change. I know for the city of Chicago, right now we're talking, right, reopening, but we're also talking about getting vaccinated. And recently, Andy, I don't know if you can confirm this, right? I think that there's something going around where like you can actually get vaccinated at home now, and like you get a gift card or something like that. I don't know if you've seen any of that. Right.
I saw it very recently, but because I'm
Okay.
vaccinated, and
Yeah, I know, right?
well, I did just post the signage and resources. They were saying something about a $50 gift certificate
something
today
like that.
in the news. So that's something, if you're unvaccinated and you want to get $50, I would definitely check the news for links. I just posted CDPH has communication resources, so posters, flyers, social media, kind of Mythbusters stuff. So I put that in the chat.
Thank
It's
you,
just
Andy.
happening so fast, it's almost like you
It
can't
is.
keep up. I love the idea that we're paying people to get vaccinated and there's still resistance. It just boggles my mind.
And as a friendly reminder, the COVID-19 vaccine is free to the public. So there has been, some misconceptions that there's a cost involved to receive the vaccination, but there is not. So keep that in mind as you talk with your employees and those who are not vaccinated. Additionally, the Illinois SBDC at ICNC will be hosting a couple upcoming webinars that relate to emergency planning. So in July, we will have a 2-part series on workforce hazard recognition. And then in August, we will have a webinar on key components of a site-specific health and safety plan. So although we're talking about COVID-19, you should also be thinking of future, disasters that can take place. So we are doing programming to get our companies ready for anything that might happen, down the road.
Thank you, Enrique, for sharing that. Diana and Andy, are there anything that's up and coming for the city or the state with regards to any virtual events with these updates? And then also if you can tie, I mentioned to you all before we started this, right? But we have a large Spanish speaking audience, and I know this entire conversation has been hosted in English, but I want to remind our viewers and our Tribus Hub clients that I speak Spanish, hablo español, con confianza, come and contact me, if you have any questions. And I can make sure to connect you with someone that speaks Spanish. If there are any other specific, like industry specific questions that you have, I know the state and the city are working to translate a lot of their material if it's not already, but if you both can, shed light on that.
Yeah,
Well,
so, go ahead, Andy, sorry.
Go ahead, Diana.
I was going to say, at the state, I'm the Latino Business Development Manager, and I'm fluent in Spanish, so feel free to reach out to me in English or Spanish if you have any questions. Also, if as a business owner, there's all this information being thrown at you, right? You're trying to keep up with your business, you're trying to keep up with your family, personal life, etc. If you have any question regarding a business regulation or a business assistance program, you're just not quite sure who exactly and what you're supposed to reach out to. At the state, we have what's called a First Stop Information Center, and you could contact them in English or in Spanish, and you could call them at 1-800-252-2923 and just ask them, hey, I heard the governor mention this program, where can I get more information? Or I heard about this regulation, how can I get more information? Who can assist me, etc. Or you can email them at ceo.firststop@illinois.gov. So there's assistance in English and Spanish between our office and OMI, First Stop. We're here to assist you. Feel free to reach out to us. And we hope to have more information for you in English and Spanish, but we don't at the moment have any upcoming events that are related to reopening. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
On the city level, I put the link. We have an ongoing education workshop webinars, primarily in English, but they really just help you form a business, understand licensing, understand investigations, kind of what next, all the things, and they have lawyers that present on kind of legal pitfalls. There's just a variety of webinars related to businesses, kind of startup, getting running, resources out there. In Spanish, Mexicano hasta el tuétano. I'm just kidding. But, we make sure that we serve our Spanish-speaking clients all the time. So if you have any questions of me in Spanish or anyone else on our team, we can definitely refer you to those that provide all the resources. And I'm pretty sure the signage resources are also available in Spanish. I think if you go into that, the links I put up, there's a haga click, and you can get most of the signage and resources in Spanish for your customers and your employees. Yeah, that's about it.
That's a really good point, Andy. And I also want to remind everyone too, I know Andy and I, even Diana too, are frequent guests on Univision. And we usually, if there's any, updates that we have, our World Business Chicago has a partnership with Univision. And so pretty much every Monday we always have, a speaker on, but anything that has to do with reopening or just information and resources for the businesses, for our Spanish speaking community. I mean, we have this partnership with Univision, and we make sure that you have that information, right? So you'll see us on TV, or Univision will share the resources. There's always some way, somehow, that we make sure that this information is available to you. So I also want to share that with you all. And I think almost always also share recordings of those interviews if you haven't seen them. And you can also find that on the resource page on Tribus Hub. So before we close out, I want to make sure to share with everyone and remind you, please follow us on social media. We are very active. Tribus Hub, you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, everywhere. Follow us because we share up-to-date information in real time on there with regards to events, resources in English and in Spanish. Whatever you need is on there. You can also contact me at info@tribushub.com. And for those joining us today on Zoom, you have my work email also in the chat box. But any questions that you have, we're here as a city's resource portal to make sure to connect with any resources you need to start, grow, or accelerate your business. And as we reopen Chicago and the state of Illinois, we also have those resources for you. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Andy, for sharing your time with us. And thank you, Diana, and for the great partnership, Enrique. Great idea. It was Enrique who called me. He was like, hey, we need to do this webinar. So I said yes. And you can connect to ICNC via TriBiz Hub. You know, we are at over 180 business resource providers across the city of Chicago and growing. So any questions that you have, we're here to help you. Thank you.